Hello. 27th of October. It's a week from today. We'll be at the polls making decisions about various races, including a couple of contested races at the Battle Creek City Commission. And so, over the next several days, we've offered the commissioners and the challengers chances to come on for a few minutes and talk a little bit about the issues and themselves. And so today we'll talk with the Vice Mayor, Lynn Ward-Gray, and Commissioner Andy Helmboldt. And as we were just discussing a moment ago, the Vice Mayor gets to be first.
Yay!
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, and hello, Battle Creek.
Thank you for the time today. We appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
How long have you been doing this?
I have been honored and privileged to serve since 2009.
All right. What keeps you coming back, Lynn?
Well, I tell you, my roots are deep in the city of Battle Creek. I was born and raised here in the city, and that level of service really came from my parents, who created this legacy of service that I just kind of fell into. It's in my DNA. I was born and raised in Ward 2. I work in Ward 2. I worship in Ward 2. And of course, I live in Ward 2. So it's just part of who I am to serve and to be a servant leader. And I want to continue to do that. There's still work to do.
What work do we need to do?
I tell you, as I've been talking with residents, there's a few things that I'd like to see and continue to work on. One is bringing jobs. We've been doing a great job of that. But I'd like to see not only jobs for the city of Battle Creek, but something centralized on the north side where people can get to, more localized, where people can really just go down the street or around the corner or couple of blocks down or one neighborhood over, and find work and opportunity, and really would help with some of the challenges we've been experiencing with transportation and just getting to work that's a little further out. And I'm happy that we're moving in that direction already, with a new manufacturer that's coming in to the former space for Bronson at home, right there on North Avenue. That is very much welcomed, and at its time, at its peak, it could have about 150 new opportunities for residents. So that's really exciting. And another opportunity that came up through the Calhoun County Land Bank was the mow and maintenance program that they piloted this summer, which allowed nonprofits to pick 20 lots, at least 20 lots, and mow those vacant lots for the Calhoun County Land Bank and get a stipend for their organization to help further their mission. So it was just a great opportunity for the first year. It really worked out well. And so looking forward to continuing to bring jobs to Battle Creek, focusing on the north side this time around. Next, we are continually working on what I like to call a reset of our inspections and code compliance departments. We started with inspections last year and having some community conversations, finding out what the issues were. And then we've been working with a small task force to try and drill those down. Of course, it's not happening fast enough for our developers and builders, et cetera. But we are committed to continuing in that process to be more customer friendly and more business friendly here in the city. Certainly on the same vein, code compliance is probably a majority of my calls when I'm hearing from residents. And so trying to make that more understandable, more customer friendly, is something that we're really committed to. I'm really committed to. And I'd like to see that work continue as we move from inspections to the code department and starting those community conversations, et cetera.
Why do you think that code compliance is such a big issue? What's at the root of that?
At the root of that, we have a lot of codes at the city that we, as the city commission, have set that our staff is carrying out. And I think a lot of times people just don't realize what those codes are. And so there's an education that needs to take place. The bottom line, these codes are in place to ensure health, safety, and welfare of our residents and fair treatment of, say, tenants, those who are, renting a particular either house or apartment. So they're there for a reason. I think education would help, and just a better understanding of why they're there and how they work. And there are some that we need to take a look at to change, to make them a little stronger as well. Lastly, I guess it's not lastly, but next I really want to work on continuing to improve our communication. We've done a great job with our communication specialist. Very excited about having Jessica Vanderkoop on board. She's done a great job of press releases, just welcoming us to the digital age. And then I also do the Keeping You Informed series that's on Access Vision, award-winning, I must say.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Award-winning. Comes on every Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and it really just tells you how to access your city government. We've gone through several different departments. This month is emergency services, emergency management. We'll have BCU and City of Battle Creek, the relationship there, and several others. We got a good lineup for the next year. So that continuing, as well as my town halls. As a matter of fact, I have a lattes with Lynn tonight. So come out, Battle Creek, 5:30 to 6:30 at one of our newest restaurants downtown, Raffiney Southern Cuisine. It's 97 West Michigan, next to Arcadia. Hope to see you there, 5:30, 6:30 p.m.
And so when you do those, are folks mostly talking about code issues, or are they coming to you about other things too?
I hear a little bit of everything. Most individuals who come out just want to say hi, they want to socialize. That's how it starts. But then they start to drill down into what's happening on their block in their neighborhood. Oftentimes it's blighted houses. I hear a lot about that. I hear a lot about folks who have challenges with code. That's certainly at the top of the list. And then I also hear how people, want to get involved. I mean, believe it or not, people say, I want to be more involved. I just don't know how.
Nice.
And, of course, I certainly relay them to the Neighborhood Planning Council system, which is really the first place you should look. As a Ward 2 commissioner, I have the great privilege of having 4 within my ward. I'm the only commissioner that touches 4 different neighborhood planning councils.
Wow. And
I get to all of them regularly, and it's a great vehicle for residents to not only get an update about what's going on as far as police always give a report, code compliance always gives a report, but then they get to have an interchange and give information to those departments when there's something that's really critical and needs attention.
Before you go, I want to give you a chance to talk a little bit about BC Vision. How are you feeling about that?
BC Vision, I think, is a good step in the right direction. I love the fact that there's a partnership and some leadership on the behalf of Kellogg Company and the Kellogg Foundation. Certainly that's one step. There's certainly other things we can do for economic development. I like the fact that like Center for Entrepreneurship exists in our city, and they're able to work with residents who have that entrepreneurial spirit with all ages and be a support in that way. I think small business entrepreneurs is a way to support our economic development. Of course, our downtown is thriving, looks fabulous. You have to agree. I hope everybody is liking the way it looks, because that just really welcomes people to our downtown. Every time a conference or a group comes in, they're like, how clean it is, how wonderful it looks.
Makes an impression.
It makes a great impression, so we're really proud of that. So BC Vision, we're well on our way, needs to engage more residents at the ground level, and hopefully as this continues, I think people just don't know about it. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because even me saying it here, we want residents to engage. Hopefully people will seek it out and get involved and try and lend their voice. It's never too late to step into the process. We have a lot of action teams that are doing work, but the work continues. I'd like to see it go right into the neighborhoods, into the churches, into the community centers, videotape it for Access Vision. If you want to do it on the road and come out and get it on the air as far as what's happening and make sure everybody's voice is heard as we work on this economic development and engagement, creating jobs, talent, of course, culture vitality.
Vice Mayor Lynn Ward Gray, we appreciate the time today.
Thank you.
Thank you
You for having me. And go vote, Ward 2. We need you to get up and go out and vote.
Week from today.
All
right. 8:19, back in a minute with Commissioner Andy Helmboldt. Joining us, Commissioner Andy Helmboldt. Now, as we continue talking with commissioners a week ahead of Election Day. Morning.
Morning.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
So we pose similar questions to you. How long have you been doing this now?
4 years now. This will be my third city election.
All right. What keeps you coming back?
It's interesting, challenging work. How do we govern a city of 50,000 people in a way that's fair and equitable to everyone?
Are we doing it right?
Not yet entirely, which is what it keeps you coming back.
What do we need to change?
There are a lot of things that we do very, very well. The sort of the nuts and bolts, get everything done aspect of our city government, our staff, the way it's administrated and operated, by and large, is excellent. I think our roads are probably the envy of many communities and other municipalities across excuse me, across the state. We have good services. We have an outstanding park system. Garbage get picked up for the most part. Stuff runs. We've redone our agreement with BCU and economic development folks in the TIFA to make and they're doing great work too. I think that was a matter of educating some folks on what actually happens, what goes on there, and building a system that's more transparent so that people can look at something and say, oh, okay, yes, that's what they're doing. That's what the tax money is going for.
Were we not getting that before?
I think the way that was structured and governed, there were just a lot of layers there that made it difficult for people who wanted to know. I don't think there was any deliberate effort on the part of anyone to hide anything or to not say no. So I think partly, excuse me, partly just the structure there, but partly I think for a long time that there was very steady leadership there at BCU. A generation of steady leadership with Jim Hettinger and the city government, I think, just trusted them to do what they did. They did it well. But as the economy is changing now, and we've come through this Great Recession, and things need to look a little different, people have slightly different responsibilities, and I just think, the city itself needs to be intentional about just paying more attention to its economic development contractor. It's all city taxpayer money, and they operate on a contract with the people of the city of Battle Creek.
Right.
And I'm happy with the way that all these transitions have gone. And it wasn't just the city pushing BCU for something. BCU was during this time, reorganized their board, new strategic planning on their end, brought in a new CEO there. And so I'm excited about that, as well as, BC Vision process. The city has been a leader and partner in the BC Vision process, which I think there are things to be optimistic about there as well. We have, the big K's involved, the company and the foundation.
Yeah, you anticipated I was going to go in that direction next. When we talked to Brenda Hunt, for example, she came in here saying, I've never seen anything to this extent that involves this many people and the energy that it brings. Do you agree with that?
I think that is a fair assessment. I think things with vision haven't always gone smoothly. There's been some people feel pushed aside, and certainly the language coming out of there has been around community engagement and equity and things. And I think I still haven't seen that completely manifest itself in what's happening. But certainly the scale of participation from a major business standpoint is different and new, and I'm optimistic about it. I mean, if anything, you have large entities at a table together, working together, considering our whole community system, the economic system together as a whole, and that in and of itself is unprecedented. So, I stay optimistic that as long as everybody stays in that, that it will move the community forward.
What do you think the number one goal is going to be here in the next year for this commission?
The main goal over the next year is to, at least from my mind, and I think that the city management shares this, is to implement a new budgeting process, or moving to something called priority-based budgeting, which is essentially a way to make sure that the way we budget and allocate funds actually matches the priorities of what people want to see their city government be doing.
Sounds reasonable.
Not that I anticipate going through this process and finding that somehow we're way out of whack. I mean, still it's streets and water and garbage. I mean, there's parks. There's these main things, but in the details, can we look at our budget as a document of priorities, instead of a document of line items with giant numbers and dashes and acronyms, and we've gone through. We started that by last year, going through a process of goal setting, mission, vision, and goal setting. Here's what we ought to be doing as a city. Here's the ball we need to keep our eye on. Building that into a whole new and enhanced way of evaluating the job that the city manager does, and then that in turn trickles into, okay, here are the priorities and goals for the city. How is our budget? How are we going to allocate funds to make sure we're meeting those goals? And I think that's from the high level view, that's the main goal.
All right.
We have smaller within that. There's a communication person that we brought on almost a couple years ago now, that we're moving forward, keep moving forward with being a better communicator with the people, and wanting to get that more of a two-way communication, and new website on the way that should make all that much easier. I heard Commissioner Gray talking about the code inspections process.
Right. Oh, and those things should help engage folks easier, the thought is.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. We need to do a better job of getting information out, which I think we have been doing. But ideally, you want communication to be a two-way street. Unless we're listening, hearing, and responding better to voices of the people in the community, then we're not quite there yet.
Andy Helmboldt, an incumbent. You'll see the name on the ballot a week from today.
All right. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you very much for the time, Andy.
All right.
We'll stay in touch.
All right. Thanks.
8:20.